Now, you mentioned the social contract, and for you, that's the code is law philosophy.
Well, no, it wasn't just me. There
Other
was even more.
philosophy
I mean,
is
there's videos of him on YouTube saying illegality. He invented new words for it. And the Ethereum core team was perfectly comfortable going for over 2 years talking about unstoppable applications and saying how we're not going to roll things back and it's going to run the way it's written. In fact, I remember there was a great paper from Elaine Shee, The Ring of Gyges, which talks about all these illegal smart contracts that can be used for bad things like assassination markets and other things. And he'd ask the Ethereum community and they say, that's not our responsibility. We don't take a position. The protocol doesn't care about the code, just like Bitcoin. If somebody uses Bitcoin to fund terrorists or buy child porn, it's not the responsibility of the miners or the protocol developers because it's a neutral platform that doesn't care about the transactions. And the whole philosophy was that whatever your smart contract is that happens to live on the protocol, that contract, whatever it is, we don't care. The protocol will run it. That was the original philosophy. And it was incredibly crystal clear. Long after I left, they were pumping it, raising money on it, getting hype on it, getting developers on it, holding meetup groups about it, doing YouTube presentations, doing DevCon presentations, the founders that remained. So, it wasn't my interpretation, just use their own words. And we would not have such a large community in ETC and be $1.5 billion and have people willing to work for free because no one's getting paid right now, in ETC dev outside of donations. And I pay my guys, but that's a loss leader. I don't make any money on it if we didn't believe in that social contract. So with all due respect, no, I don't think it was just a small difference of opinion. I think it was a marketing message that people accepted, they raised money on, they built a community on, and when it became inconvenient, they threw away because of legal and regulatory reasons.
absolutely. I'm pretty Switzerland on this issue. I understand Vitalik and the massive success of Ethereum behind, and the argument of intent. And the argument that this is clearly a bug. Obviously, it's outside the Ethereum protocol. It was in the, but I also understand the very firm, stoic code is law approach. Obviously, I
but there's
firmly agree with you.
In the overlay software, and there's a bug in the protocol. Bitcoin fixes bugs in the protocol. There was an error with Bitcoin way back, like 2010 or 2011, where you could manipulate Bitcoin script in just the right way and create billions of Bitcoins. Obviously, you fixed that. It was fixed quickly. That's a problem with the protocol, and it violates the social contract. There was a transaction malleability problem with Mt. Gox's software, allowed hackers to come in and steal all the Bitcoins. That's Mark's fault. That's Mt. Gox's fault. And yeah, a lot of people lost any money. Some of the Bitcoin core developers had over $1 million each in Mt. Gox. They still did not advocate a rollback, and they lost millions of dollars of their own money. So I think that principles are expensive and they're hard. And I don't care if there was an intent. I'm pretty sure Mt. Gox had an intent not to be hacked and had an intent for their software to behave in a certain way, and probably did. And I absolutely know that the guys at Slockit had an intent for the DAO to work. They were trying to build their brand and reputation on it. And if it doesn't, it's a disaster for them. So I appreciate that. But the problem here is, crypto, that you can't go ahead and advertise a certain type of development experience that says you are 100% accountable for your actions. And the people that invest in you and work with you are at 100% risk. There is no government. There is no fallback. There is no guy that's going to come and save you if that guy's a scammer or if the code doesn't work or you lose your private keys. This is the world we've lived in the cryptocurrency space since 2009. It's the Wild West. It's a harsh one. It's like saying you're going to go out in the desert. You got to provision your supplies. And if you run out of water, you dehydrate and die. That's on you. You didn't bring enough water. You didn't prepare yourself properly. But you're told that before you go into the desert. Similarly, this is the desert. Now, desert's got a lot of magic in it. It's got gemstones here, and perhaps there's an oasis and maybe long forgotten city. So there's magical, amazing things that you can accomplish and see in this world. But it's a dangerous world. The minute that you say, okay, well, certain people, they get a do-over because it's just, it's too big and that person's too important or it has too big of a consequence, then what you've basically said is, well, you know, this guy who goes out in the desert because he's a celebrity, I'm going to send the helicopter in and rescue him and prevent him from dehydrating. Then what happens to all the other people who died in the desert and dehydrated? What the hell did they die for? So what's the cutoff point? Is it $100 million? Is it $10 million? Is it $5 million? I mean, how would you feel if you had two swimming pools and one of the swimming pools a child falls in, the other swimming pool a child falls in, and the lifeguard in swimming pool A saves the child, and swimming pool B says, nah, not today, immutability, code is law, and lets that child drown. And they say, well, but the child in the pool A, that was Bill Gates's kid. So it's way too important. We get sued, government investigation. The child B, that was some illegal immigrant's kid. Who cares? No one can do anything about it. That's the moral hazard in the most concise of terms with what intervention does, because you have no standard for when you intervene. It's all about political connections or outcome, and then the people you didn't intervene for, those people lose everything. But why? What did they gain? I mean, at least when you have principles, you can say, I saved no one. And we all know that then. And we all took the risk. There's a cave that people love to go and scuba dive in. And it's a very dangerous cave. It's in South America. And every year it kills dozens of scuba divers. But it's a beautiful cave. And they run out of oxygen and they get lost and they die in the cave. And they have this little sign, and it has a skull on it, and it says, if you go in this cave, you're probably going to die. It says it in multiple languages, but people every year, they still go, because that's that. And when somebody calls and says, hey, my friends went into the cave, and they haven't come back, the authorities won't show up. They said, we put the sign, people knew the risk. If they did that, well, we'll hope for the best. And that is the world of cryptocurrency. Ethereum has exited that world and has now entered some sort of mid-ground. And I don't know what that is, but it's not crypto land. It's something different. Doesn't mean it can't be successful. Ripple's tremendously successful. It's at $11 billion. The market's growing like crazy. They have a lot of enterprise customers. I have tremendous respect for Arthur and for Chris, and I think they've built one of the finest companies in the space. And I also have tremendous respect for the people at the Ethereum Foundation, for the people at Consensus, and I think they do tremendously good work. They have a great guy at EF called Yoichi Harai. He does a formal verification work. It's some of the best work and most systematic and rigorous work you'll see in the space. Okay? But I will not call that then a cryptocurrency, because I think what's happened is it abandoned everything that makes a cryptocurrency a cryptocurrency. It's a different kind of cave, and it's lost any moral mandate.
It's hard to argue with a lot of that, especially as essentially in my past, I have been Nigerian princed at about 100 Ether, and I quite frankly, I'd love to have that forked back to me, especially like the more that Ether rises. But that being said, Charles, I think this question is a rough one, but I have to ask it. So there's a lot of people out there that do believe that Ethereum Classic is essentially an attack on the legitimacy of Ethereum by Bitcoin maximalists, often specifically the Silberts are mentioned. So how do you respond to this? Obviously, you're very passionate about the subject, so I'm looking forward to your input.
Well, you know, whatever. Okay, so let's just look at where it was and where it is. And so it doesn't really matter what the thing existed as it was when it was created, if you really think about it. It was a protest, and there's sure as hell a lot of people in that protest movement who had a lot of reason to be angry with Ethereum. Okay, so there was people who bought Ether and they felt like they'd been lied to. There were Bitcoin maximalists who probably thought this was a good avenue to damage Ethereum and prevent it from overtaking Bitcoin. There were probably people there who said, boy, I missed the Ethereum boat, and if I can join the ETC boat, if this thing can overtake it, maybe I can get the asset at a tremendously underpriced value. Whatever the hell it is, that's what it was. It was a very chaotic and unstable time. I was in the camp that felt the social contract had been violated. I came in and said, I'm going to put in developers and community management, and we're going to try to be good custodians of this project and help it along and get it past the crisis point. So now we're past the crisis point. A lot of the short-term actors have left. A lot of people on the Ethereum side tried to kill it by dumping their Ether Classic, which they got for free. And there was even tweets from certain people saying, free money. I can't wait to see the price go down. I can't wait to see this thing collapse. There were a lot of people said, use the trademark to shut it down. A lot of people said we should sue Barry Silbert. It was a pretty vicious attack from the Ethereum side. And sure hell, there was a vicious attack coming from the ETC side to the Ethereum side. It was both ways. I'll acknowledge that. That's fair.